I'm James Holder. Welcome to Full Court Football 24. Quite privileged to be joined by former Tottenham, Southend United, Brentford, Wycombe Wanderers, Bristol Rovers, Swansea City's very own Ijah Anderson. How are you, Ijah? You all right?
I'm good, Jay. I'm good, to be honest. Just got a slight neck problem, but it's what you get. We're getting old, innit? Getting older. Old age catching up with us.
I've got to say, this is the first interview I've ever had where someone's actually in their bedroom laying down. So you look comfortable. I hope the neck's all right, mate.
Hey, mate, I'll tell you what. I've got so many cushions there. I'm telling you, it's my old Buddha's wand, mate. You know what I mean? It's a nice selection of cushions, but yeah, no, I'm good, to be honest. Just relaxing, mate. Like I said, it's one of them neck pangs where it comes and goes, and I've dosed myself up with some tablets, so kind of numbed it a bit, you know.
Yeah. Do you think it's a football-related injury? Do you think it's from your playing days?
I think there could be a knock-on effect from that, but I do suffer from like back pangs now. It's surprising. It's not surprising really, because I think the rigorous kind of training and the kind of everyday training and work rate and the weights that you did and the running as such. And what I mean by the running side of things would be 1 minute could be the first hour or two on concrete. Next you could be on grass. Next week could be on uneven ground. So just imagine doing that over, let's say, 15 years of being pro, 16 years, 17 years, I'll say pro. Your body takes a pounding and you know, your bones and things like that do kind of get softened along the way, and they do damage, definitely. There was an impact on that.
Well, imagine that. Before we get into this stage of your life, I want to look back on your footballing journey and your career. Now,
yeah,
I know you was at Tottenham as a youngster. So,
yeah, was
you brought up in the North London borough, around that area?
Nah, I actually was brought up in Hackney, E9, Homerton.
Hackney.
So Hackney E9, which was Hassett Road, Homerton, just like a 2-minute walk from Homerton Station. I went to a local school called Berger Primary School. At my time there, I went to Stone Newton School 6, which was a secondary school. Spent like first year in secondary school at Stone Newton, then I got chucked out. So I ended up in Homerton House with Kevin Watson, Jeffrey Menton, Uku Egiog. A lot of these guys, as you know, Jeffrey Menton was at Tottenham Hotspurs and was one of the players from the youth side that went on to play in the first team along with Kevin Watson. I believe Mark Falco was one of their former pupils at Homerton as well. Ugu Ekiog, who left our school and went to West Bromwich Albion, went on to play for Aston Villa, and then England for England honours, and then obviously was at Tottenham Hotspurs doing the youth reserves, and bless him, rest in eternal peace. Ugu. He passed away on a training ground after conducting a meeting with the youth lads. You know.
Was you always naturally good at football? Would you be playing football?
I wasn't blessed with natural talent, man. I would say I was just hard working and running, and was a team player. For talent and actual natural ability, that's a hard one to swallow for me. I don't think I had that. I just think I did like football, but I think my main thing was breakdancing, to be honest. I love breakdancing, Jay. I loved it back in the day, that and beatboxing, you know what I mean? You know, we had our own little crew, which was like at least 10, 15 minutes from where I lived in Hassett Road. We used to walk all the way to Wally Foster's in which was near Kingsmead Estate, just before Leighton. Wally Foster's was like a youth club place, but you had like DJs in there playing hip hop. But it built up a good following where you had people from South London, West London, like the best from all corners of London, would all compete under one roof. So it was like the film Breakdance, when it all end up in the club and they're all just competing. It was like that, literally. And I was part of a crew called Technique Breakers. So from that group, you had a guy called Tony Thompson, and he's the guy who sang with who was it? SL, what are they called? He was the voice that did, hey, what's wrong with you? You're looking kind of sad to me. That's him, Tony, right? Then you had BJ. His name, Overlord X. He was the one that brought out a few hits back in the day. And he was quite fundamental with a lot of hip hop songs in the early 80s. My cousin Raymond Henry, he was with a group called Beats International. And they did a song called, what was it? They did a remix of Hey. It was Tell Me I Am Crazy. Just Be Good to Me. That's the remix they did. And he was a rapper in it. You had a few other guys, Colin, John. He went on to do a bit of music as well, Colin. And Donald. Donald ended up with a group. I forgot the name it was, but they were very fundamental, late 80s. And he's gonna absolutely hammer me for not even mentioning the group and not remembering it, but they were on Smash Hits. You remember Smash Hits used to come on TV? And he was fundamental in that group, very fundamental. They did quite a lot in UK for hip hop and also in America. Yeah, man, that was my kind of upbringing, breakdancing, man.
How did you transition then from breakdancing into
football?
Well,
funny enough,
how did that come about?
When we were younger, yeah, we used to breakdancing was just crazy because we would like breakdancing flats. We'll breakdancing flats, lino. We'll walk to different estates and compete with other people. It weren't ever arranged. You just naturally you go to a certain area and people be like breakdancing. You just knew. It was like everyone was just kind of telepathic in that way in that time of hip hop. Irony of this is that we would go to Covent Garden. Covent Garden was a place where most people that like hip hop, breakdancing, and that just street dancing would go to Covent Gardens. As it was, Covent Garden was more or less notorious for street art, graffiti, dancing. Anything you go Covent Garden, you'll see it. People dancing, breakdancing, graffitiing, magicians. You do get some sort of that nowadays, but not many of them about. You got to have a license to do that. It was more or less busking. Do you know what I mean? So you'd have all like the little rugrats from Hackney going down there to breakdance. And as it was, I was down there. I got spotted by a management agent team. They were called Break Machine. These guys are twins. Basically, there were three of them. Two brothers, twins, and the cousin. They did like a few songs which ended up in Top of the Pops. I ended up being in that group in Top of the Pops, breakdancing in the background. So they would take me out of school, as it was, secondary school, and primary school, and they would put me in a cab all the way to Apple Studios just to do their video recordings for Top of the Pops. So I'll be the breakdancer in that, and I've still got a footage of that on my phone. To be honest, it's on YouTube. Break Machine, the group, and I'm actually in there, which was a good experience at an early young age. And I'm in a youngster. I mean, we didn't get paid much. It was like a bucket of Kentucky, and crack on with that.
So was you playing for a local team in the area? Was you playing district football? What was going on with you at that point?
At that point, I was literally weren't doing football at the time. What it was, where we lived in Hassett Road, Homerton, there's a few of us that used to just on the flat on the estate. We used to just mess about playing run-outs or playing knockdown ginger as it was. One day, my mate Matthew and his dad were coming in from a football training. So what happened now? When we were playing knockdown ginger, I was knocking on the door of someone's house and running off. And Matthew and his dad were coming in from training with a club called Leopold Football Club, boys club it was, based in Poplar. And I've obviously pegged it past the car, and his dad gone, "Do you want to come training?" next week. And I've gone to him, yeah, I'll come, but I'm running from someone, you know. Because I used to pester the door, belt the door and run off. So the following week, he'd come to my mum's and he said, oh, we're going to take Ijah training. My mum went to, but he's got no boots. I've obviously ended up going training with him at Leopold Boys Club, which is based in Poplar. Ended up signing with them and did all right in training. Well, I thought I did anyway, but yeah, they signed me and I was playing up front for them for like a good couple of years. You know what I mean? It was fantastic because that was a club where they always had end of the year, they always had Tottenham players that would come and present their trophies. Now check this out. When we had a presentation night, Vinny Sandways presented my trophy, and Paul Moran, and the other guy was called Terry Fennick. So the mad thing about it was that my first club I signed for, I would say like proper, was Tottenham, but I was obviously with Chelsea, Arsenal and Tottenham as a youngster, but I ended up being with Tottenham. Later on in the years, I ended up playing in the reserves with Terry Fennick and Paul Moran. These, and then Vinny Sandwich was obviously in the first team at Tottenham, was like top boy, and I'm like, flipping hell. There's me at Leopold Boys Club, had my trophy presented by these guys, and I've still got the signatures somewhere in pictures as a youngster. It's mad. It's mad. It's Royal Rover stuff because like we say it all the time. It's cliche. You say you hear it, you know. You dream about things like that, but it don't happen. But when things happen, you think, nah, this is too freaky, mate. You know what I mean? It's fantastic.
You mentioned you had spells at Arsenal and Chelsea,
Yeah,
with their youth teams and stuff. Talk me through that period in your life. What do you remember?
Yeah. I mean, that's football is now. Obviously, when I was a youngster, you know, you could like filter between clubs. I mean, now you can't do that because there's obviously legislation that they're put in place now. But I, after being with Leopold Football Club, Boys Club, I ended up being with like Westwood, Simrab, and Wadham as a Saturday club, local side club that I was playing for. I ended up playing with Chelsea as a youngster. I was asked to go down there by a guy called Ted Davis. He was like a centre of excellence chief kind of scout. Again, while I was down there, I used to go, you know, jump the trains as it was from Mile End, District Line, all the way to Fulham Broadway as you do, and walk down to the Chelsea ground as it was that we used to train at the ground, which is Stamford Bridge. And obviously, from me doing that, you'd be a ball boy on a Saturday. So I'd always walk out with Clive Wilson, who was a legend in my eyes, who ended up playing for Tottenham as well. Kerry Dixon was playing up front, David Speedy, yeah, Graham, what's his name? Graham Roberts? No, not Graham Roberts. Oh, I forgot his name. Peter Nicholas. That's it. Peter Nicholas. Eddie Noveski was in goal. Young David Lee centre back. You had like Kevin Wilson up front. Pat Nevin. These are all like legends, you know what I mean? But I was only a youngster, so I'd be like a ball boy for Chelsea at the old stadium, Stamford Bridge. Back in the day, they had like at the ground at Stamford Bridge, they had like cars that you park on the side of the pitches. Do you know what I mean? It was mad. Ken Moncal was playing centre back as well. It was mad. Stamford Bridge was like rocking back in the day, but it was a dark time at the time because you had, you know what I mean, you had your thugs with Chelsea as well, you know what I mean? They were like, they'll give it to you. Even if you was a Chelsea player for them or what, they'll give you some stick, you know what I mean? Mad it was. But yeah, I ended up being with Chelsea and I remember signing forms with them, but still, I turned out for Arsenal. So Terry Murphy was a scout for Arsenal at the time, and I ended up going down there. So I'll train on a Thursday night with Chelsea, Thursday night over Battersea Bridge as well, and at the ground Stamford Bridge. And I'd also go and play for Arsenal, which would be the weekends sometimes. You know what I mean? On the games, I'll play on a Saturday and turn out for them. You know what I mean? But you can't do that nowadays, man. You know what I mean? You can't do that.
what was the decision to sign with Tottenham Hotspur? How did that come about?
Oh yeah, well, I think what happened was that being at Chelsea when I signed forms, yeah, I went to Arsenal, and I think Arsenal was saying that they were going to sign me. The guy Terry Murphy, and he had a guy called, what's his name? I forgot his name. There was a guy there who was obviously conducting a selection process for the players like myself, and he was dilly-dallying. But Tottenham obviously approached me and said, "We would like to take you to Tottenham on a Centre of Excellence forms." But I remember in the back of my mind thinking, I swear I've signed forms with Chelsea. Anyway, I ended up going down to Tottenham because most of the players that I played with in my school team was at Tottenham, and my local side I was playing for was Wadham. So my coach Ken Reeves and obviously Barry Curran, who's passed away, they were very in contact with Tottenham club as a whole, and Glenn Reeves was one of the guys that I played with at Wadham, and Jonathan Scarborough as well, who was at Tottenham as well. Terry Christie was another guy that was there at Tottenham. Another guy called, I think, Toby Louch. A few other players that were in our side at the time locally, Wadham boys, were there. So it was like ironic that I went down there and trained with Tottenham Hotspur, and they offered me a Centre of Excellence forms. And my first club I played against was Brentford. So I played my first game was against Brentford, scored two goals against Brentford, funny enough, for Tottenham. And I signed like associated Centre of Excellence forms with them. And also, I believe it was schoolboy forms. So I ended up being with them. And the guy that signed me was John Moncur for Tottenham. And he was good for me. He was great guy. And I'm still in contact with him to this day. His son played for Tottenham in the first team, and also went on to play for Swindon Town and West Ham. And obviously John Moncur, who signed me, who was chief scout for Tottenham, he was chief scout for them for like 30 odd years, funny enough. His grandson is called George Moncur, who's now, I believe, playing for Ipswich, or was it Colchester United? He's now still playing at them clubs, I think. Hopefully I've got that right. But yeah, he's a footballing family with great tradition.
Who else was in and around the youth team at Tottenham with you at the time? What other players were about?
Well, when I was in the Tottenham youngsters, the youth team at the time, because I played above myself, James. When I was at 16, I ended up playing in the reserve. So, but in my youth side, there was Sol Campbell, Jeffrey Minton, Andy Turner, Jamie Clapham, Stephen Carr, Stephen Robinson, who is I think Motherwell manager. I think he was, and he was Northern Ireland manager as well. The other guy was Junior McDougall. These guys came out of Lilleshall. So Lilleshall was like the best of the best players in England, right? And obviously these Centre of Excellent players came out of Lilleshall, come straight to Tottenham, obviously promised the world, they got contracts and everything like that already set for them. But in that youth side, you had loads of players, man, that went on to, grace the Premiership and everything like that. Not that I did, not me, but these guys went on to, as you know, Sol Campbell excelled and played for Tottenham and Arsenal and England, and totally smashed it, along with Andy Turner. Danny Hill is another player, who went on to play for Cardiff City. Good few players in the youth team. I mean, Stephen Carr is one outstanding player who went on to do great things as well with Republic of Ireland. You had a guy called Leon Townley, that played as well for, Brentford as well. There's a good few players. Yeah, good few players, man.
What was the emphasis like, and what was the ethos like at Tottenham with young players at the time? What was it like for developing talent?
Do you know what? I'll tell you what, mate, you know, as a local lad, as you know yourself, you know, you just want to play for that club. But I think the ethos at the time, in my year, there was only about 2 or 3 of us. And even with Sol Campbell, you'd be surprised that they were giving him a hard time to actually sign. He was one of the last to sign pros after coming out of Lilleshall. He actually played in the first team and, you know, was one of the players that should have been in the first team a long time ago. Yeah. But his journey into the first team was kind of stagnated. But they had to play him as a front player, centre forward. He was a midfielder, centre midfielder. But the ethos with Tottenham was there's so many numbers of players that it was high numbers, a ratio of just having loads of numbers of players, as in you had like players from Ireland, Scotland, and you know what I mean? It was pass, and you know, your football was main thing of, you know, fantasy football, wasn't it? Which for me coming through there was quite surprising because I don't fit that kind of. I would more or less tackle and run, and you know what I mean. Hard work in a team player. Silky skills weren't my game, James. You know what I mean? Obviously, I had a couple silks up my sleeve, but I wasn't your ideal Tottenham player. No way. I was more or less an out and out defender, and you know, me and that winger we do battle, and I'll win.
Would the young players have to clean the boots of the senior players during your time at Tottenham? Would you have to look after the senior pros, like get their kit out, clean their boots and stuff?
Who were they? Who I had?
Yeah.
Oh, mate, I started off with Gary Mabbott. Funny enough, I had 6 pairs of boots that I used to clean, if I got that right. So my ones were David Kerslake, David Howells, Gary Mabbott, Paul Allen. I had Ian Hendon. I had Paul Walsh. That's 6 in it. And I believe I had Vinny Sandwich at one stage as well. Yeah, they were quite all right with me, to be honest. I think the only one that was a bit of a nightmare for me was, who was it? I think Razor. Neil Ruddock. Sometimes I would clean his boots. If you ain't done his boots properly, boy, he will let you know. He would rip you. He would rip you. But that was pretty good. The lads that I had doing their boots, it was a good thing to do boots. It kept you grounded. You know, it's a good thing that I think nowadays they don't have to do boots because it's classed as bullying, you know, James.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So jobs like that, I mean, I used to do boots. I used to clean the footballs. I used to, you know, you put the kit out, the bibs and everything like that. You had a lot of work to do, but it kept you grounded. You know what I mean? It was something that kept you like your head on the ground and you just kept level. You know what I mean? You never got above your stage and that. And in my time, you very rarely spoke to the pros. If you spoke to the pros, it was deemed as though you'd be in big time. Do you know what I mean? So now the youngsters coming through now, they've got a whale of a time. It's like, you know what I mean? It's holiday for them. It's a holiday camp.
What was Neil Ruddock like with you? What was Razor like with you?
He was good, you know, he was good for the lads, you know. I mean, I think he kind of like broke that ice for like fear factor with the youngsters. Because I think a lot of us we were quite fearful of speaking to the pros. But when you got a guy like Neil Ruddock who speaks to you anyway, do you know what I mean? It was like, it was good. You know what I mean? He just made it so natural that you could talk to him about anything, to be honest. I mean, another one was Teddy Sheringham. He used to drop me home. Do you know what I mean? After training, he would drop me home. He'd drive me all the way from training or from White Lane to Ponders End to Edmonton, where I used to live, where I moved to with my mum. And he would drop me home. And I remember like driving on the new road in his Porsche thinking, I'm thinking, what? I'm like, he's booting the Porsche stand there telling me about his moves. He's moved to Tottenham from Nottingham Forest and how that all happened. And believe me, I was one of the first to know about the story because it was a bit of a wonky one, wasn't it? It was Terry Venables meeting Brian Clough on the M25 and a bag of money being transacted between the two of them. And he told me about it. And little did I know, when he told me about it, I think he was just telling me he knew it was going to hit the papers. And that came out in the papers I knew about it 2 months before it hit the papers. And he told me the whole ins and outs of how wonky it was and everything like that. Do you know what I mean? But it was good to know. It was good to know. And again, it was mind-blowing that I'm sitting next to a player that I was watching score 2 goals, live on Sky, for Nottingham Forest against Liverpool. And he's at Tottenham Hotspur and he's dropping me on. Do you know what I mean?
The media and the public have a general picture and persona of players, like Teddy Sheringham, for instance. What's the real Teddy Sheringham like? What's Teddy Sheringham really like from your time?
Mate, Teddy Sheringham is literally sound, bruv. Sound, bruv. And I'm telling you, man, it was like, for me, like, you see, when you see players like James, like, I would be in awe, you know, like, even to this day, right, I still got Panini stickers. You know what I mean? Teddy Sheringham, like, I've got Panini stickers of him when he was at Millwall, you know what I mean? And literally, like, you'd think, like, I love football so much that I'll keep Panini. No, it weren't that. It was just like, back in the day, we would exchange, like, Panini stickers for, like, sweets. Do you know what I mean? Going primary school, you end up having, like, you know, a full meal, you know what I mean, for, you know what I mean, exchanging stickers. But Teddy Sheringham was sound, bruv. Like, forget football, just sound. Like, I can't speak highly enough of him, you know what I mean? He was like, for me, he's just like a bro, like, you know what I mean? You could talk to him about anything, and he'll talk to you like, you know what I'm saying? He'll just talk to you on a level.
Who was the manager at Tottenham during this period? Who was in charge of the first team? And
yeah, at the time when I was there, there was Doug Livermore and Doug Livermore, Ray Clements were first team coaches with Terry Venables. Before that, you had Peter Shreves. Before that, you had David Pleat, and then obviously you had Ozzy Ardiles as well with the latter. You know, Ozzy Ardiles was the one that obviously let me go in the end because he said that he was buying players and he was bringing in players, etc., etc. And obviously he had Sol Campbell as well. You know what I mean? And obviously Sol was played as a left back rather than a midfielder. So obviously I weren't going to compete against Sol, was I? You know, but at the end of the day, it would have been nice to, you know, been brought through. But there was a bit of a stigma back then. Not many black players came through at the time. It was only like, you know, Sol at the time that was really playing. I mean, before that you had Mitchell Thomas. Before that, John Chidodi, Danny Thomas. You know, Andy Gray was another player that came through. He was another one that I was done these boots as well. And he gave me my first boots from him. He gave me like a pair of Mizunos. You know what I mean? So yeah, he came from Palace to Tottenham, made his debut for England. And yeah, good player, man.
Must have been a weird time with Terry Venables leaving to go Barcelona, and then Ozzy Ardiles coming in, the club transitioning, I guess, from homegrown players to more foreign-based sort of players. Was it a difficult time to be a young player at the club during that period?
James, you're spot on, you know, James. I'll tell you what, and this is what was frustrating, because at the time, right, let's say when you came through the youth team, you'd playing the South East Counties Div 1, Div 2, right? And you'd always play against Arsenal, and Arsenal had players playing in the youth team and playing in the first team. Yeah. So at the time, you would have players like Mark Flats at the time was playing. Other players like Gavin McGowan was playing in the first team at the time. Matthew Rose was playing from Arsenal in the first team. And at Tottenham, you hardly get like a, you know what I mean? You hardly get anywhere. The most closest thing you get like to coming through in the first team at Tottenham would be travelling with the first team. You travel with the first team and that was it. You're in the squad. And most of the guys would love that because you get a little bonus from that. Do you know what I mean? But as in putting the kit on and like being sub or getting on or anything, no way. You just travel with the squad and that was it. So it was really hard and frustrating. And a lot of players, like, you know, you'd find it hard getting your head around that, knowing that you just, you know what I mean? Your natural progression was, right, youngster coming through in the youth team. If you're playing in the reserves as a youngster, like 16, well, you're set, you're going to get pro. It never happened. You just end up being dragged along. It never happened. So you'd always make a progression of getting in the reserves, and everything from there, you think, right, I'm going to be getting the first team, train with the first team, which you did, train with the first team, right, get excited. You know, hopefully you'll make the squad, be on the bench. Do you know what I mean? But you'd hardly get a look in, you know what I mean? And it was frustrating. And I think in the end, you had a lot of players that were just signed it another year, added on another year, because mostly because it was just a money thing. Not the ambition of going out on loan or going to a club and playing and trying to apply a trade for yourself was never in their mind. They'd rather sit and just be signing a year upon a year and just collecting that dough and being in the reserves for like until late 20s. But I chose to leave and, you know what I mean, sign with Southend under Phil Foley and Peter Taylor, you know.
Can you remember the conversation with Ozzy Ardiles about you leaving the club, about your departure?
I'll tell you how it went down. When I was what happened? I must have got about 8 goals left back for Tottenham, and I was on my game, man. I remember the first season, because I always gave myself, had little pointers that I'm saying to myself, I come through pre-season, rapid fit, strong, and just playing. In that season, I scored 8 goals playing left back, and I was really doing really well. I was in the reserves every week, you know. And first and foremost, we had the Dallas Cup coming. I was in the reserves. So what happened? Ozzy said that with the youth team, and that said, oh, he can travel with the youth team to Dallas Cup. And I thought, oh, excited, you know, thinking, yeah, I'm going Dallas Cup. And I'm thinking, obviously, they made their mind up, they're going to give me a contract. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, my energy was telling me, you know what, find out what's going on. So check this out. I remember speaking to Chris Shooten, right? And I said, Chris, I don't want to go Dallas Cup if I ain't got pro, right? And I remember the youth team manager at the time, that you had youth team coach, Pat Holland, Keith Warden also was one of the trainers, and also fundamental in bringing players through from youth to reserves, and also signing contracts. The youth team manager, Pat Holland, and Chris Shooten were saying, yeah, you're going to go Dallas Cup. We'll take you Dallas Cup. Ozzy, you know, Ozzy's allowing you to come Dallas Cup, and you've got pro. I thought, sweet. Went Dallas Cup. I played in the Dallas Cup. We got to quarterfinals. I scored in the quarterfinals. We got to semis. We got knocked out by a great side. I forgot what their name was. Mate, I think we got back. I remember training on a Friday. I remember getting called over on the training ground. And Ozzy was very minimal in terms of the way he spoke, but he just said to me, like, you know, he's Ijah, go and see Keith Warden. Keith Warden wants to speak to you. Anyway, run over to Keith, and I think something's not right here. You know, we just feel like something went right. So he said that to me, and I thought that was when he was training on the training ground. So I had to run. I ran over to the other side of the training ground to see Keith Warden, youth team coach at the time. Anyway, I went over to him, and he gone to me. I said, he went, you are? I went, yeah. He goes, Ozzy told me to come and see you. He goes, yeah. He goes, I'm sorry to tell you this, Ijah, but we're not going to sign you. We're not going to renew your contract. And James, excuse my French, instantly, you know, when your heart drops, I didn't go mad, but I just said, like, that's, you know what I mean? I just gave him a few words. I said, that's, you know what I mean? You really done me over there. And I remember walking off the train, not walking off straight away. I went over to see the other coach, Pat Holland. And he knew from the look on my face, he just knew. That broke me, man. That broke me. Do you know what I mean? It really done me in.
What happened after then? You just packed your stuff and then went home. That was you with the closure with Tottenham.
Well, what happened was that they actually already set up a loan already for the Monday, right? So just imagine that's a Friday. Now, I was told on the training ground, all the rest of the other players got taken back to White Hart Lane, where they did it properly. So you were called into the box, as it were, which is like a VIP lounge, and they tell you, etc., etc. But I think due to the nature of as it was me as a Hackney boy, I had a bit of a temper in it, so anything could have gone off, right? So they've done it on the training ground, innit? So the Friday, they've told me. The Monday, I was on the train going to Charlton Football Club on loan. Yeah, mate. They already done loaned me out to Charlton Athletic Club on a Monday. So from when I got on Friday, I got the call saying you got to go to Charlton training ground, and you're going to be with Charlton for the remainder of the season.
So were you playing in Charlton's reserve straight away? You're going
yeah, on. I went straight into the reserves, where again I ended up playing with Bob Boulder, Mark Robson, who was a former Tottenham player as well. He was a senior pro there. Paul Sturgis, Paul Linger, Richard Rufus, centre back. Who else? Those other players like David White, who's passed away. He was a fundamental in Charlton's first team. You know, you had players Cole Leeburn and players like that. You had Kim Grant, who was a senior pro there. Also, Steve Gritt was still playing as well at the time. Alan Kirbishy was a player coach, I believe, as well. Scott Minto was there. Good few players, man. Sean Newton, you know, players like that. Yeah, players. There's some players. Good club though. Great club, man. Lee Bowyer was there. That club there. If all fairness, was set up for me to sign with them and stay with them, but at the time, as it was told, that they didn't. I don't know what it was, their financial situation and whatnot. Obviously, they were, you know, I think they were ground sharing with Crystal Palace as well at the time, because they actually lost, I think, the lease on their ground at the Valley, as it were. So they were ground sharing with Crystal Palace at the time. So they already had it in place that they will have me for the loan period, but they couldn't really do anything at the time. Do you know what I mean? But it was a great club, family club, well-run club in terms of for players coming through, you know. I would have loved to have stayed there.
After your loan spell ended with Charlton, what were your options? What was on the table for yourself? What decisions you have to look back and make?
Well, I mean, to be honest, right, this how it was as well, Jay, right? I was so determined to, like, I don't know if it was determined, but I was so, like, kind of, you know, like really scared, like, of thinking that I was going to be a failure of not really doing anything in football. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'll tell you this story as well, which is true. I would go to any, if there was not a trial, but if there was games to play with any club, I would try and get there, right? That would be like bunking trains, bunking buses, whatever it took, I would try and get there, right? I remember I was asked to play for Chelsea, funny enough. Sorry. It was playing for Southend against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, right? Phil Holder, I believe, was the manager at Southend at the time, along with Barry Fry, right? That was a morning game. The afternoon game, you had Watford playing I forgot who the team was playing against the side. I think it was Southampton. It was a reserve game. I would play in the afternoon game. So I'd play in the morning, get on the train, bunk the train, and go all the way to Vicarage Road and play for them for, who was the manager at the time for Watford? It was Kenny Jackett, right? Kenny Jackett. And I never told no one this in terms of any coaches, because they would have thought, you're crazy, innit? Playing 2 games, reserve games. I remember I'm only like a young lad still, you know what I mean? And I remember playing one game, playing the first game for Southend at Stamford Bridge, then travelling, bunking the trains to get to Watford. Mate, running on empty. That's what the fear of not succeeding in the game done to me. Do you know what I mean? So I played 2 games. I remember after the second game for Watford, right, I was walking like John Wayne, mate. I was in bits. I was in bits. I was walking like John Wayne. I was finished, bruv. Never, ever would I ever do that again. I wouldn't even recommend any youngster doing it. No matter what it comes to, your health and is more better than wealth for, you know what I mean? There's always a time and a place. You can always make up time, you know what I mean, in football in terms of games, if you miss a game. But putting my body under that stress, bruv, and I think it was just, I must be weren't even thinking straight. It was just a fair fact of, you know, not succeeding in the game or not giving myself the chance of signing with a club, you know?
Was it from these reserve games and these trial games that you then got a next opportunity? How did that link up with Southend come about?
Well, yeah, funny enough, when I did these trial games, what happened was, remember, I ended up at Southend, didn't I? After Charlton. So Peter Taylor rang me up. This was out of the blue. And I had to meet him at the Swallow Hotel, along with another mate of mine called Danny Foote, who was at Tottenham with me, who got released. And we ended up meeting Peter Taylor at Swallow Hotel in Waltham Abbey. Yeah. So even back in the day, Swallow Hotel was notorious for people getting tapped up, or, you know what I mean? Players would meet different managers there and sign pre-deals, you know what I mean? Or get like a brown paper bag of money. You know what I mean? Maybe got West End with the money and spunk it, do you know what I mean? But obviously I ended up meeting Peter Taylor there. And funny enough, I didn't think he wanted to really sign me, to be honest, because what happened was I turned up there with like it weren't my agent, but a man that I knew. And Danny ended up meeting Peter Taylor. So Danny gets in Peter Taylor's car, and they leave me standing there with this guy, speaking to this guy, and drove off. So I'm like, hold on a minute, Peter Taylor's meant to be like meeting me here. He goes, "Now get in the car." So he got me in his car, and we ended up racing behind Peter Taylor, following him all the way to like a game. And then he says, "Yeah, playing this game." So I ended up turning up at a game playing, and really and truly not knowing what was going to happen. But at the end of it, Peter Taylor ended up signing me on crap money anyway. And I just signed the contract and just thought, whatever, it's a chance. And that was it.
And under Peter Taylor, were you straight in the team?
No, what happened was Chrissy Powell was left back. In that side, I have a good mate of mine who's a friend of my family as well, Ricky Otto. He's now a pastor in Birmingham, and he's doing good works. You know what I mean? Doing great works. This is the guy who I looked up to in my younger days, that coming through and living in Hackney. He was a big name in Hackney, to be honest, for the wrong reasons. But you know, he's learned. Top man though. You know what I mean? He's proper. Andy Answer, as you know, who's well known in football. And I look up to him massively. A lot of the players, there was Keith Dublin, you had, other players there, Steve Tilson, yeah, massive player. Paul Sampson was a goalie. David Regis, who's still Regis, his brother. Players, who else? You had Harry Willis, who was signed from Birmingham. You know, Edward, we'll call him Edward, but he's Andy Eagle. He was another player that was at Southend. Chrissy Powell was the one that stands out for me because he was ever present at left back. But it was a good. I was an understudy to him, and it was great to learn from him. And my time at Southend, obviously, I played in the first team, but at the time where I could have been playing more and should have been, Pally was playing, and he was a regular pro and was an outstanding left back and a brother that I look up to. We shared so much things in common in terms of the way I played, the way he played was quite similar, but he was more forward-thinking, forward player, a wing back. I was more of a defender, but there was so much similarities that they saw in me as a youngster that it was only great that I learned and trained with him and would with the first team at the time. And Pally looked out for me, you know what I mean? I was a bit of a raw head as well, and a bit edgy, do you know what I mean? So I think I needed a bit more nurturing, you know? But Peter Taylor at the time was more of a coach, not a manager. He was a good person. So he rather stuck to his loyalties to the players that he had signed and put together. But at the time, patience of the owner ran out and they sacked him, you know. But I didn't really get a look in anyway. Pally was brilliant at Southend. That's why Derby County signed him, and that's why he went on to play full England honours he got with Derby, you know. Great player, and he went on to Charlton, and, you know, brilliant player. Good man.
Did Peter Taylor take all the sessions himself? Did he do a lot of the training himself when you were there? Would he be in charge of the sessions and on the pitch?
He was more or less in charge of the decisions on the pitch. He was more hands-on coach, manager. But he was too nice, James. He was too nice, mate. Really, like, you couldn't. He's had so much success as a manager, rightly so. Great coach, brilliant coach, you know. But too nice. He was too nice and a bit of a blagger as well at the same time, I would say. You know what I mean? At that stage of his managerial career, I think he was more overpowered by big characters, you know, and he was more or less, he would sit like, all right, yes, sir, all right, like, yes, sir, 3x4 at the time, and didn't really give himself much of a prop to be like, hold on a minute, I'm the manager, I'll make decisions. He was more or less governed by clicks and things like that. Do you know what I mean? But he was a nice, great coach, great character. But at the time, early in his managerial career, I would say, he was really too nice. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't cutthroat at all.
After he left, who came in next? Who was the next manager?
The person that came in was a guy called Andy Thompson, who, for me, James, he's an arsehole, mate. The guy's he's not a football man. He was a guy that came from up north. I got nothing against people up north, love them, but his exact words were, first thing when he first came into the club to the players was, I'm going to be bringing in players from up north. That's all he said. His first other conversation to me was, I'm bringing in the players in your position, and you're not in my plans. Now, most managers, I think, would put it in a nice way. Do you know what I mean? Look, you know, obviously you're not in my plans, but I will try and help you out in finding another club. But mate, the way he told me that, And just imagine, I was 19, 20, and he's telling you, like, in the most tone of voice was like, "Ugh," do you know what I mean? Not nice at all. But again, it didn't work out to the best for him, because he ended up getting the ting tacked, and Ronnie Whelan took over. But at the time, Brentford came in for me, and I've gone, and Ronnie Whelan wanted me to stay, and David Webb wanted me over at Brentford, and I went. I just didn't, I jumped at that, mate. Jumped. I was gone.
What was your first impressions of David Webb and Brentford?
Well, I think he was good for me, to be honest. It was good for me. The only thing I would say, he should encourage me to be more attacking. Because I tell you why. I remember getting tapped up, right, by Kevin Locke, his right-hand man, when I was at Southend. He said, no matter what happens, he says, don't stay with Southend. He said, we already know the setup. He said that they heard that Ronnie Whelan wanted me to stay there, and I would have stayed there. Ronnie Whelan was a legend to me, Liverpool player. He turned a player coach at Southend, and I would have stayed there because he was football orientated. He was silky as well. Anyway, but already, when like I was beginning to detest the game, James, I ended up going to Brentford, and I remember speaking to Webby on the phone, and as he put it, son, you're going to come to me, and yeah, you're going to have a great time here. We missed out on promotion, and I've got good plans for you. I know you're a good player. We came and watched you for Southend, and I see you playing in my first team. When he said that, I was like, boy, yeah, that's great to hear. You know what I mean, James? I've never had that someone say, anything good in that way. I've always had to earn it, mate. Bust my gut to earn it. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, gets to Brentford, and I remember him saying on the phone before, saying, what do you want to do? The lads are going to be meeting. Let's say, for example, they're going to be meeting on Thursday at the ground. And I think he was putting a tester there, because I should have said, I should have took him up. I should have said, you know what? I'll meet them I'll turn up at the game or something like that. But he went to me, the lads are meeting on the Saturday. No, the lads are going to meet at the ground. So it'd be nice for you to say hello to them and get to know them. You know what's happening at the ground, innit? They're meeting at the ground to go to Richmond Hill to do running. So I've said, yeah, I've tried to give it all, yeah, I'll meet the lads. I didn't even know. They're going Richmond Park, mate, going for a run. I ended up going there, spewing my guts up, mate. The running that they did, I've never seen anything like it, mate. But he was good for me in a way, Jay. He was good for me. And my first impression was that he was old school. But with the old schoolness, he kept to his word. Do you know what I mean? So he had an old school principle that, yeah, you're going to play, and you are going to play. Do you know what I mean?
Who was the big characters in the dressing room for Brentford when you signed? Who was
there's some characters, man. I'll tell you the best, the characters there was Brian Statham, right? Go back to Brian. He ended up being one of the players that presented one of my trophies when I was playing as a youngster, for Leopold Boys Club. When I was at Tottenham, he was a senior pro. Now I'm at Brentford. He's one of the pros there as top boy. Big character. But always when I was at Tottenham, and I was like, used to go to the games, and we would be walking down, let's say, from the chip shop, going to the ground. He would be coming out the bookies. Always coming out the bookies, you'll see, Brian. So he was one of the characters there. You had a guy called Jamie Bates, who was a character. You had another guy called Lee Harvey. Great. Brilliant, he was. He was one of the pros, senior pro. Good character, banter, funny. But he was one of the pros, which was like the go-between between the the young lads and the pros. He helped build that relationship because he would always have time for the youngsters, Lee Harvey. You know what I mean? You had a guy called Robert Taylor, who was a legend. He was the one that got Man City in a Premiership. He scored the winner, and he got a lot of clubs in promoted with Gillingham as well. He was a brilliant pro, great player. Nicky Foster, another character. Paul Abraham's a character. Martin Granger, old school pro, brilliant player. Went on to play in the Premiership for Fulham, wasn't it? And Birmingham. He was the left back, and great player at the time. He was the one that when I went to Brentford, he signed for Birmingham City, and he went there as I came in. And he was a good defender, great player as well, and done well. I still keep in touch with him, to be honest. Good player, but at the time, me and him never used to get on. Not never get on. We got on, but it was like the rivalry was very intense. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it was like, as I trained when I came to Brentford, training with Brentford, I went into the first team as a left winger, and I was playing in midfield. He was a left back, but I ended up playing left back when he was out injured, and I ended up playing. And Webby was like that. If you did well for him, he will leave you in the team. He weren't giving you no favours, so that became a bit. I think we became really competitive with each other. We were both alike, And again, I think that is a bad thing as well, because the manager should have really galvanised us in a way to be more friendly, although you can be competitive, but a bit more friendly. But Webby was a bit like, the training was really intense. You had players that were training and were kicking lumps at each other. Literally, like, it would like come to blows, you know what I mean? Not like nowadays where training is just 10 kick-ups, 20 kick-ups, keep ball sessions and little bit of short sprints, and then you go in and relax. Do you know what I mean? It's more ozone friendly, isn't it? It's more friendly vibe.
You mentioned with you and your teammate competing. Have you seen spats and players literally come fist fights and stories you can count from these situations?
I mean, I had a few. I had a couple myself. There was a good few, man. I think some proper scuffs, mate. You know what I mean? Yeah, proper. One time, Dan Powell must have gave Andy Woodman, who was a goalie at Brentford. They came to blows, and Dan Powell gave him a right hander. This was half time, man. This is at half time. Of coming at half time, and things were said and whatnot, and yeah, Pally just give him a little right hand, a proper smack on the jaw, bruv. Like, it was proper, full on flush. But, we had a second half to play, so everyone had to get that, you know what I mean? Had to quiet that had to get sorted out quickly, you know what I mean? So, yeah. I remember we was away in La Manga with Brentford again, Warren Aspinall. It was a season pro who came to us from Brighton. From Brighton, was it? What, Brighton? And Ricky Rayner was an old player, not old player, but an old school player from Dover who signed non-league and came to Brentford. And this was one of them, drinking sessions that they let senior pros will have. And Warren Aspinall must have said one or two things to him, which was out of order. And then Ricky Rayner filled him in nicely, like tucked him up, man. Like, but it was a long time coming, because I think Warren Aspinall always would give him sticks. So I think for Ricky, it was an ideal opportunity. You know what I mean? Ideal opportunity, bruv.
You had some success at Brentford. You obviously become a big staple of the team and a big part of the squad. What was it like winning the league, the division, to get promotion for Brentford? What was?
I'll tell you what, Jay. I'll tell you what. It's only now, that I'm really appreciating what I've really done with the club, and that's why I love the club so much. But I tell you what, bruv. it's massive, bruv. It is massive. I mean, when at the time when we was on a roll, like could remember when I was at the club, you know, I went through 8 or 9 different managers. I ended up being the longest serving player there, right? So in the early years, it was all about battling and being in the mid range of the league. And then next minute it was under Webber, we ended up missing out on promotion after leading at the top, 12 points clear Christmas at the top, but couldn't hit a barn door after Christmas. Ended up being in playoffs, losing in the final to Crewe. But then all of a sudden, we ended up going through different managers, and then Ron Knowles gets, takes over and buys the club as well after having Crystal Palace. Then we've got Ray Lewington comes in with Terry Bullivan from Crystal Palace. Now they're managers, and Ron Knowles is the manager as well. Now he wants to be a manager, so he's been a manager as well as a club owner at Brentford, right? And all of a sudden, money's in the club, and he's bringing players from Palace on some big wages, and I'm on some dead money. Like I'm on dead money. Anyway, we're flying in the league, and this momentum of winning week after week is galvanizing, and to an extent where we get promoted, man. And I was like, wow, I've got a medal, bruv. No matter what happened, I've got a medal. You know what I mean? And I'm thinking, not many players go through 9 different managers and withstands every challenge and still plays in the first team. Most players go through 1 or 2 managers, and then next minute, if another manager comes in, you got to find another club, or unless that manager likes you. Do you know what I mean? So I withstand a lot of managers and being tested at the same time that these managers were coming in because they wanted me out, really. A lot of these managers wanted me out because they wanted to bring in a lot of their players. But for some reason, either the players that played at the time were falling off form, and I'll come in and I'll just bang it, which is how I saw it as a personal attack on myself. I'll just come in and I'll make a statement. Do you know what I mean? And I think my rapport with the fans helped as well, you know, because they always saw that I gave 150%. And I'll go through a brick wall for the team, you know what I mean? That's how I was, man. I'll do anything for 3 points. You know what I mean?
Your love for the club, for Brentford's obviously clear to see. What were the Brentford fans like with yourself as a player? What was the interactions like with the fans?
That's a good question, Jay. And to be honest with you, when I first got into this team or got into the club, they didn't really take to me. The first 20 games, they weren't having me. It was all about Martin Granger. Martin Granger was their idol. Yeah? He was their idol. For me playing, I was a raw kid coming into a struggling side as it was. The patience weren't a case of give him 10 games and then cool. Nah, you had to go from the off game, bruv. And even from the off game, mate, I was getting stick early doors, you know. I was getting stick early doors. And I think the stick that I was getting was only because of their love for Martin Granger. That's what it was. And I was getting some stick, bruv. But I think what happened was, could I withstand the stick, and they could see that I was trying, that they gave me a chance. And I think when Martin Granger went, and he went 7, I think it was, how much did he go for? He went for a few, about 700,000, was it 700,000 or 200,000 to Birmingham? And then I came in and I did well. I just played my skin. I played out of my skin, and they just took to me after that. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, you did have a few still trying to like make it hard for me, because obviously Martin Granger had left, didn't it? Who am I? The young lad playing in the first team. Martin Granger was their top boy, free kick specialist, penalty specialist, scoring goals for Brentford from free kicks and penalties, mostly getting double figures in defence, to me playing in the first team. obviously come in and scored. Don't get me wrong, but I was playing in midfield. But, I wasn't, I didn't set the ground alight at all, bruv, to be honest. I was just happy to play, you know what I mean, bro?
After you guys won promotion, what happened then? Was there a big push for the next division to go again?
Winning promotion, yeah, I would have, because when we got promoted, yeah, and it was to kick, you know what, mate, sorry, because we actually the next following year was flying. So we got promoted and we're flying again. But injuries, bruv. We had players, obviously Herman Ryerson came to us. We had other players that were galvanising the team to go on again. So we had the momentum. So the momentum was there. So we were flying. But all of a sudden, injuries kicked in. I got injured. Another player got injured. Four main players come out of that first 11. I think it was a total of 6 players. Unstable the team, totally. Lost the momentum. Players that came in didn't really hit the ground running. Players that were playing lost form. We lost our momentum, missed out on playoffs. Do you know what I mean? So it was an uphill battle. And then I had an injury which kept me out for half a season, came back the following season, hit the ground running, playing. But again, a lot of the players that played lost momentum or lost form. So we lost momentum and loss of form, coinciding with players leaving. Do you know what I mean? And then getting sold on. Do you know what I mean? And then that was it. And I ended up staying there, mate, just staying, and I think the fans loved that I showed loyalty and I stayed with the club through thick and thin, even though I'm still waiting for my testimonial, and I've been told that I would be getting a testimonial, so I'm still waiting. But I love that club.
Is it difficult? I was going to say this, when you love a club and you're seeing the trajectory of the club going down, so you're seeing the better players in and around the squad leaving, you're seeing the talent just disappearing.
You know what, Jay? I'm glad you said that as well, man. Trust me, because you know what? I think at the time, I had blinkers on, in that time, because I think I saw a lot of players that left, man, and they went on to other clubs, but I just still saw Brentford. My goal was, if I'm going to leave Brentford, yeah, I'm going to leave Brentford in another league, i.e. being promoted to another league, yeah? And knowing that I kept to a principality of loyalty and achieving what I said is what I wanted when I first signed for that club, which was promotion and playing in a bigger league, and knowing that I could sign with another club, knowing that I achieved that with Brentford. Do you know what I mean? But it was hard at the time seeing players leave and seeing the talent that was coming in and the club not going nowhere, and I was still there. And that hurt me a lot, man, because I was thinking, damn, man, I'm going to be losing my opportunities as well. Do you know what I mean? And players that were coming in and going were players that were playing maybe 10 games in the first team, and they were getting moves, brother. And I'm like looking to my left and right, and I'm seeing players that were playing 10 games or 20 games going to big clubs. And there's me playing 30 odd games, 40 games a season, and not getting touched. Do you know what I mean? But obviously what I heard was clubs were inquiring, but the club never told me.
What was it like plying your trade as a black man in some of the lower division grounds? So you're visiting different grounds, maybe closer, more intimate, so you can hear the crowd or the away fans. How have you handled that? And have you had to deal with some situations yourself personally?
I'll tell you what, there were times where even at Brentford, you had quarters of fans that were quite racial, you know what I mean? Dealing with that, I think, did I deal with it right? Maybe I did, but did I acknowledge it? I think I tried not to acknowledge it. What I mean by that, I think I could hear it, but I think I accepted it as part of the game, to be honest, Jay. Which, is that a good thing or is it a bad thing? I don't know. I think my mental at the time was, I just want to play football. And I think,
do you think black players?
And I was thinking, was that a bad thing? Did I?
I'm just going to come
or
on.
Was it the right thing to do?
Do you think black players were conditioned at the time to accept it? Do you think you were conditioned and told to ignore it and to accept it?
Yeah, I think, James. I think, Jay. I think you're right. I think maybe we may have been conditioned to a certain quarter, or was it that we were just told to just crack on and play and just accept it? It's part and parcel of the game. Do you know what I mean? Which it wasn't. It was like, I even had racial slurs even from teammates that I was playing with.
Really?
And there was racial jokes. And I think there were racial comments from coaches as well. When I look back, there was racial slurs and racial comments, and it was proper blatantly racist. And I'm like, wow, we were conditioned in a way. Or was it in a way where, you know what, crack on? Do you know what I mean? Just get on with it, play and whatever. But I think right now, because of the clout in football and because of the backing as such of the more fundamental of a stage of, hold on, it's not right, I'm going to pull you up on that, you can do that. Nowadays, you've got loads of support in that aspect. I think at the time of where we were in football and even beyond that, there was no basis. I think if you did mention it, it would have been class of unsettling the boat, or, you know what I mean, bringing an issue. Because if you look at it at the time, I think Stan Collymore tried to raise it as an issue in his time, and he was ridiculed. Do you know what I mean? He was ridiculed. Yeah, the other players that mentioned it, Ian Wright was ridiculed for it. You know what I mean? There was most players that would highlight, but it weren't the right timing at the time. There weren't many people batting from that corner. Do you know what I mean?
Interesting, because some of the young and more recently retired ex-professionals have taken some shots at the older black players, saying that they didn't have the same energy when they were playing, that they didn't stand up for themselves. But now you're saying the case that if A or B player did stand up for themselves, that they probably wouldn't have had a career, that they would have been shunned out of potentially the limelight of the football club.
Jay, for real, honest, right? I think, again, that comes another thing. That's another fear factor of, I think, maybe that was our fear factor as well, of our dream being, you know what I mean, up in smoke early doors before it's even started. Do you know what I mean? Which is bad, really. And again, I think the game had traits of doing that to most black players, or any player of that kind of background. Of, if you wanted to make a stand, the game was quick to shut you down in that way. I think even still as well, I think the PFA had a massive role in terms of, should have been playing a fundamental role in highlighting, which they did minorly at times, kick racism out, but they weren't really behind it or supporting it fully. Yeah. Now, and I think the PFA played a fundamental role in encouraging racism as well in that way, in terms of not doing anything when there was very much players going through stuff at the time, when they should have been supported. The PFA sat on the fence and never did nothing. You know what I mean? And I think clubs and managers should have had a hard look at themselves. I think most managers that are still in the game, even then, are quite embarrassed today. And what I mean by that is knowing that what's happened and how racism is getting highlighted. They most really, there's a lot of managers that I see still that I've seen today that played the fundamental role in racism back then, and even other players. And I look at them, I think to myself, how do you feel today? Like, what's going through your mind? Do you know what I mean? I wonder how they're conducting conversations now. Do you know what I mean? You know?
Very interesting.
It's very strange.
Now, you played over 200 league games for Brentford, well over 200 league games,
Yeah,
amassing a lot of appearances, not including
yeah.
games and whatever else. Was it a tough decision to leave the club after 8 or 9 years there?
James, I'll tell you what, that is, you got some you coming up with some quality questions, bruv. Let me tell you something. If I said to you, it broke my heart, and it kind of brought my career to an end, to be honest, in a crazy way, which I knew it was going to be in an end early on. Because what I mean by that, I went on to play for Bristol Rovers and Swansea. When I went to Rovers on loan, that would again bring me back to the Southend game and the Watford game. Doing that fear factor came in again. So now I'm being forced out under Wally Downs. So what happened here now? I'm at Brentford. I'm the longest serving player. All of a sudden, I'm being told that I'm not going to be offered another contract because they wanted me out. You're one of the senior players. You're one of the players that's getting paid a lot of money, which I wasn't. But it was a personal vendetta. And this was driven by a guy called Wally Downs. Now, I gave the club 8.5 years loyalty. I've never asked them for nothing. Never, ever asked them for a signing on fee, any contract. Never asked them, never got what I wanted, even in contract negotiations. Never had negotiations. Unheard of. I just took what I was given, right? On my life, right? I've never had great money. Weren't even rewarded from the club with great money or nothing. Not even with contracts, right? So 8.5 years I gave that club. Loved that club. I played through massive injuries with that club, right? This guy comes in the club. When I was playing with Brentford, this man was known to go in the bars and punch drinks, right? This is the guy that used to get drinks from other people. All of a sudden now, he coming through the club from pals that know him, yeah? And all of a sudden, he becomes the manager, all right? And then he's saying to me, "Oh, I want you, I want you at the club." I'm like, is that how you speak to people? Do you know what I mean? I'm like, what's all that about? Oh no, I'm going to be bringing in players from the youth team, and yeah, that's cool. But don't you ever think I could be good for them youngsters? Because I was a youngster myself, but you had older pros. So the older pro would help you, welcome you in, help you through your transition. Never thought of that, but he had a personal vendetta. So I remember playing centre back against Wigan Athletic. I got man of the match, killed him. A manager hated it. Your own manager hated you because you played well, but he wanted me to flop. So he played me centre back, but I came out man of the match and played well. It was so bad for him that he ended up putting me out on loan to Wycombe Wanderers again after training. But the Monday, I'll get a phone call this Saturday. Wycombe Wanderers want you on loan. So the Monday, I'm at Wycombe Wanderers. So for me, it killed me, mate. It destroyed me because I'm thinking I could easily have finished my career there, bruv. Do you know what I mean? I could easily have finished. I know I was willing to stay there and finish my career. But I was driven out. I was forced out, and I wanted to really go out on a bang, like really get the club where they wanted to be, like get promoted, and then my reward would have been a move to another club, as it were, Middlesbrough coming for me, and Crystal Palace, but the club, for whatever reasons, knocked down the price the prices or whatever reason couldn't agree or whatever, and I ended up missing out on moves. Luton Town, as it were, came in with a bid to the club, which was 50,000 to 100,000 apparently. And you know how I found that out, James? I'm watching the Millennium game when we played at Millennium Stadium against Stoke City in a playoff final, another playoff final we lost 2-0 to Stoke City. And the commentator says, Ijah Anderson is one of a few players that the club have refused a bid from Luton Town for. Yeah. Yeah. Never spoke about it. I've never heard anything from the club, you know. Right? The manager never said nothing to me at all. Just imagine, right? All I've done is been loyal. All I've done is been loyal. All I've done is helped youngsters come through that club, yeah? Or just been a cushion for the players that have been there, even new players that came there, been a cushion for them. You know what I mean? I love that club, bro. Love that club. And like 8.5 years. Players got testimonials that never even played more than 150 games for the club, but they were given benefit games. I never had none of that. You've had players that have had testimonial games, benefit games. I've had none of that. 8.5 years, Jay. 8.5 years. It killed me, bruv. It totally killed me. And I left that club really bitter because of that manager, Wally Downs. And then next minute, obviously knowing that, coming back to the club as well, I could have came back to the club. But for some admin errors, they said, so-called said, it never went through. But again, there was a personal vendetta by someone within the club, which was, I believe, at the club with Martin Allen. He didn't want me at the club. The club wanted me to come back, but Martin Allen put smoke on it. Yeah, and these are the demons I've had to deal with for a long time, right? Knowing that my firstborn had to deal with her dad leaving to live and suffer the breakdown of a relationship with my partner at the time. And yeah, I tell you what, bro, it destroyed me to an extent where I weren't even seeing my kid. You know what I mean? It was a lot of things knock-on effect. Then it was stress. It was a lot going on, bruv. A lot going on. And then all of a sudden, I ended up being at Rovers half-heartedly. Not meaning half-heartedly, but I went there online, played my heart out. That fear factor of, again, not succeeding, but I ended up sustaining a contract there, played my skin, ended up going to Swansea, and I felt at home there at Swansea, a family club, being, given a chance, even though Kenny Jackett went back on his word. He was meant to sign me for 50,000 or something like that, but in the end, I ended up going on loan there, and then doing well. We got promoted, and I played with some great players there: Lee Trundle, Roberto Martinez, Liam Britton, Robbo, Andy Robinson, Kevin Austin passed away, Lee Thorpe, some great players that were there, man, I tell you. Great players. Yeah.
Yeah, some great players, like you mentioned at Swansea. Leon Britton as well. Great player.
Great player. What a player. I'll tell you what, I played with some players, man. Leon Britton, I'm telling you now, in playing in the Premiership, didn't even surprise me. Not even one iota. Some players, you can look at players in the Premiership and go, how the hell did he get there? Leon Britton, good lad. Different class. In training, I mean, when I was at Tottenham and I trained with players, right? And you know when people say that you have to pinch yourself because you're training with players. I remember every Saturday waking up and watching Soccer AM and looking at Lee Trundle, right? I remember watching Lee Trundle on Soccer AM every week. To all of a sudden, I'm training with him. Yeah? And Leon Britton, right? Sam Ricketts, Andy Robinson. You know, you had people like Bradley Milek. You had people like Paul Connors. You know, Christian O'Leary, Roberto Martinez. There's some, I think that there's still other players that I never mentioned. Alan Tate. Oh, mate. Leon Britton, for me, Emily Trundle with a different class. And I'm telling you, there's a cliche where pinch yourself, could you actually playing with players like that? And I used to think like that when I was at Tottenham training with like Gaza and that. I used to think, bloody hell. Do you know what I mean? Leon Britton was like shabby, mate. He was like a shabby man. He Keepwell says he was just on point. Do you know what I mean? And I just thought I was always in awe with these players. I was in awe with these players. I ain't ashamed to say it. In awe of players, man. Do you know what I mean?
Another promotion on your record as well at Swansea. Another medal for the captain.
Yeah.
Must have been good to get that as well.
Oh, mate. I tell you what, with Swansea as well, that was an experience because we won the Welsh Cup. We done the double in that season. You know what I mean? So I remember playing Wrexham in the Welsh Cup final, man, the last game at the Vetch, and the fans rushing. That's when I realised how big that club is. And we went out on the evening time. Wow. Crazy. And to be actually like etched in history as well, you know what I mean? It's unbelievable. I think to myself, I'm that lad from Hackney. And I mean, people go, yeah. But yeah. From Hackney to like Wales, you know what I mean? Swansea, Cardiff and Swansea, Bluebirds and Jack Army. And I'm etching history, folklore history, like with that club. Yeah, for me, like it's now I find it amazing. And because I'm doing my book as well, I'm like, I look at myself and I'm proud of myself, man, no matter what. I mean, obviously, afterwards from Swansea, things was acrimoniously come to an end, but I'm proud of myself, man.
What type of player was you? After a game, would you have been sort of out with the lads, out with the other players? Were you quite on the social scene?
To be honest, yeah, at the time when I was at Swansea, I was still living in Bristol. So I would go back to Bristol and I'll go out in Bristol, or I would still homesick and I would drive back. I was homesick, man. To be honest, my first time I actually lived away from London I've lived away from London or be away from my house. I've never done that before. So I was still finding it hard to adjust to that, knowing that my kid as well broke down in relationship, my kid, and you know what I mean? So the nights out and things like that, even though I went out in Bristol, and I did tear it up in Bristol, don't get me wrong, right? But it was like, I was still unsettled, Jay, in a sense where my firstborn, man, I couldn't envisage me being away from my firstborn, you know what I mean? And it did the breakdown of that done my head in, to be honest. But obviously, going back to your point, I wasn't out with the guys that weren't out with them all the time. I think they did go out quite a few times, but I couldn't do that as often as I would like to. I would love to have done it, but when I did go out with Trundle and that, it was fantastic. It was fantastic. I mean, these guys are gods up in Swansea. They're gods. Do you know what I mean? They are gods, and it was like royalty when you're in Swansea. Do you know what I mean? It was like, wow, right, this is what it is like being a footballer. That was the only time I realised being a footballer is like, wow, yeah. I mean, me being in Brentford, in London, who are you? Do you know what I mean? Who are you? Like, you mug. You know what I mean? But yeah, I was in Swansea and it was like, wow, Swansea City football player. Do you know what I mean? Amazing.
What's it like on a night out then as a Swansea City football player?
Ooh. Do you want to go there? Like, do you really want to go there? It's like Sexy Beast, isn't it? It was like, you know, it was proper. Let's put it this way. It was lovely. It was nice. And the thing about it as well was the fans, you get close to the fans, and the fans, diehard fans, loyal fans, and they love you. And when they talk about the history, man, they tell you about the history of that club, and you can't but help take on the history in your heart, man. I like that club, Swansea. I love that club, man. You know what I mean? That club for me was like, they helped me to love football again. You know what I mean? They helped me to love football again. To be honest, they helped me to. I found again the purpose to play football was when I was with Swansea again. You know what I mean? Yeah, they did.
Now, like all good things, sometimes there's a timestamp on it. How did your time at Swansea finish up? What were the details regarding your exodus at Swansea?
I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you. Okay, so there were times in my life where maybe I should have been man enough to talk to someone. In terms, what I mean by that, this is exclusive, by the way, James, because I've not really spoke about it, to be honest. And it's a really touching point because at the time of, again, going back to living away from home, not seeing my kid, nearly seeing my mum die on me once, this is what killed me. And I might even well up. I'm going to well up because I'll tell you what happened, right? I remember being in a hotel room, yeah, before a game, yeah. And I got a phone call. And Kevin Austin was one of the senior pros who I was rooming with, all right? And what happened was, I remember him calling me, but Ijah, your mum's on the phone. And see, at the time, I was going for a very tough time, not seeing my kid, because at the time, the child mum was messing about, and every time I made arrangements, I'll drive down from Wales, she wouldn't be turning up at a point where she was meant to be, and then all of a sudden I couldn't see my kid. And there were times where, well, I was meant to have my kid, or I wanted to have my kid, or I was calling to speak to my kid. No answer. There were times when I should have went down to London and to have my kid. I didn't go because I always thought it was a wasted journey because the mum was always playing God with my kid. And obviously, there were times where I went down to London and I would be arrested because of false allegations of the mum saying that I came there and came to the house or something like that. And bag of lies. Do you know what I mean? What a lie, and what evil thing to do. So I get the phone call in a hotel. Kevin called me, goes, your mum's on the phone. And I was thinking like, oh, my mum's on the phone. She might have came up to visit me. I never really had any family members that come and see me at all. No, really, none of the family members come and see me, really. None of them. Yeah? None of them. Ever since when I was in Bristol, and I found it hard, man. And then all of a sudden, my mum's saying to me, yeah, this is before the game. I've just got changed with Kevin to go get on a coach. So my mum was like, yeah, I need to talk to you. And when anyone says that to me, I've got to say to them, like, whatever you got to say, you got to tell me now, innit? Like, I'm not in the waiting. I don't like surprises at all. So I said, Mum, what is it? Like, you need to tell me. She goes, oh, no, I'll tell you when you come down. She goes, I've been meaning to talk to you for 2 weeks. And this is how the family is, isn't it? Communication's not really good. So 2 weeks now. I said, what do you mean 2 weeks? I mean, all you have to do is just tell me, call me, tell me, or, you know what I mean? Just tell me what's going on. I said, tell me now, Mum, because I've got to go to a game. I can't play in a match and know something's not right. Do you know what I mean? She went, "Oh, I've got cancer." You understand? So, yeah, bruv. When she told me that, bro, I got in the car. The players were getting on the coach. I got in the car and I fucked off, bruv. Yeah, I just drove to London, man. You know what I mean? Drove to London. I said to Kev, to tell the manager. And to be fair, Kevin, you know, spoke to Kenny Jackett and Kevin Nugent at the time. And I just had a head loss, man. I thought I was going to lose my mum, man. That was it, man. That was me, you know what I mean? I didn't really recover from there, bruv. Didn't really recover at all. Again, they knew the situation. They didn't really speak to me. The club kind of, what was it? Tougher lip, innit? Get on with it, innit? Yeah, man. But I weren't dealing with my problems properly, mate. And, you know, obviously with family issues and family problems and obviously kid and that, everything just curled into like a snowball, to be honest, man. And to be honest, I think I had enough of football by then. And I think I had enough football whereby I was always getting mixed messages. At the time I was playing, then I was out of the side. Kenny Jackett was telling me one thing, saying another. I was playing well, but he weren't really keeping to the same side. Never being honest. And one thing with me, I hate people not being honest or being straight. Do you know what I mean? And that's one thing with a lot of these managers, that I can look at them in the face and know that I can say I've been 100%. You know what I mean? Never sold out on any of the managers. But I could count on all fingers a lot of these managers, bullshitters, blaggers, you know, can't be straight. A lot of the managers that I had sold me down a Swanee, mate. Do you know what I mean? But my point I'm making is I got involved in things that I shouldn't have got involved in, James. You know what I mean? And that came down to mostly depression, came down to a cry for help, a way out. I don't know. I do know. I wasn't strong enough. Well, I mean that I weren't strong enough. I'm not meant to be strong enough. I will say that I allowed myself to believe that there weren't any help out there. Maybe there wasn't any help at the time, but maybe I didn't have the confidence to speak to someone that would entrust and listen to me. Because my life experience is that I've had to do it all myself, brother. Anything I've done in my life, everything I've come through in my life is my one. Not dad, never had a dad. Non-existent. I don't even know my dad. I don't even know him. I know his name, but I don't know him. Never had really close family member that have gone, you know what, I've got you, bro. Or sis, I've got you, bro. Never had that. Family-wise, I'll be honest, their family is fractioned. So I'm coming from a fractioned background, bruv. I'm fractioned, innit? You know what I mean? So I've had to learn and rehabilitate myself. I've had to grow and learn by myself. Every mistake, I will own it. I will own it. I own it. I'm not perfect, but I own it, and I'll try and make myself a better person. I'm not perfect at all, man. I've got loads of learning to do, but one thing I can do is I could tell that youngster about life and try and deter him from making the wrong decision and give him my experience. And that's my passion, to help these youngsters, to give them another way. If they have that direction or option of making a bad decision, give them my experiences. Do you know what I mean? Giving them my ears is what I want every youngster to know, that my ears is a cushion that I will listen to you. I want to be opinionated. I'll only listen and give you my version of me, you know?
You were spiraling and going out of control.
Yeah.
Which, for whatever reason, then took the path, I'm guessing, of addiction or abuse, drug abuse to a certain extent. What was the club like with yourself? What were the options?
Yeah.
What was
I,
it? What were the avenues for help for for yourself like?
I'm glad you asked that, because, you know, at the time when things came to that point, I would say it was like as if it was like as people drink, they're drinking to get away from it. It was like that. I did this thing, and I just did it to just block away what I was meant to be doing, let's say, at that said time. So I'll say all things came to my head. My mum, she's fighting this battle, being strong for her, but not being strong, not seeing my kid when I was meant to see my kid, when I had the arrangements of seeing my kid. I was trying to mask everything. But when it all happened, the club just threw me under the club threw me under the bus, bro. Yeah. I'll see it at the club. Well, I'll just say the club. I'll say the management threw me under the bus. And yeah, the management threw me under the bus. And I know if I could reveal some things on here, right, you wouldn't even believe. Even one of the coaches, right, I could tell you by fact, one of the coaches, very notorious in drugs. That's fact. I could give you a name and you wouldn't even believe it, right? At the time, at Swansea. Yeah. Now, I think as I was in that kind of spiral mode, that cry for help, the club never done anything. I ended up having an experiment with this substance, right? At a time where the following week I was having a test, yeah. But I would say one of the coaches at the club was notorious doing drugs. Every 3 days a week, every weekend, guaranteed, right? This coach is still in the game. Yeah. And he's someone that I can't wait to see, because I'll definitely iron him out. Do you know what I mean? Because the reason why is, yes, it was evident that someone needed to talk to me. He was someone that I spoke to and said, I'm going through something. And I need help in terms of personal issues. Yeah. At the time, no, I've been through that. I've been through that myself. You know what I mean? I've been through that. You get over it. Do you know what I mean? You get over it. That's all he's answer. You get over it. If you want to speak to me, speak to me. But I'm speaking to you, and I'm gonna open up to you, but you're mugging me off. As I've now known what it was, he's mugged me off. He's not really been there for me. Never. When I didn't have him to talk to, he's more or less would say it over a beer. Do you know what I mean? So this is a guy that is still in the game. And at the time when really, my point I'm making is that even before it came to that, I was needing to speak to someone, and I was saying to him, look, issues with like my kid's mum and my mum and that, and nothing. The club never done nothing. I don't think the club even really were interested in wanting to hear that anyway. Do you know what I mean? It was like more or less a stiff, tougher lip and get on with it, crack on. Kenny Jackett was notorious, really. You talk to him and he would be looking looking counting the cows in the sky or something. Do you know what I mean? You weren't really listening. Do you know what I mean? You know, so in that given time, there weren't no time. There weren't no time for sentiment. To be honest with myself, that's what it was. That's what it was. And to be honest, you know, for me, my life has always been that I've had to come through stuff on my own, and nothing's changed, brother. It's what it is. But for me, I now know me, and I know that I'm a better person for it. Do you know what I mean? And I know that I can always help the young pro or pros as such, which is what I've always tried to do, and always keep in contact with pros nowadays and help them with in terms of speaking about life in general, about not about football all the time, just about life in general, putting them at ease in terms of what they want to do and how they're thinking, you know, keeping them on the football path and also keeping them on life's paths, because they get tested in every shape or form. They get so much things thrown at them. I'm just keeping them in a know in terms of life's journey and keeping them in a small scale of things in their mind, that it's okay not to be okay sometimes. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay not to be okay, because I support the mental health to the fullest. It's okay not to be okay. Just keep speaking and communicating. I'm here for you.
How long into your time at Swansea was it till you realised that you had a problem, that this thing
Oh no,
controlling you?
This happened. When this happened, right, bro, it was towards, I'll say, 2005 and 6 season, coming into my second year at the club. I would say it weren't like a habit. It was a timing of when I did it. So because I did it on a Saturday, the Monday I would have my drug test. Do you know what I mean? And believe me, another thing about it as well is that what led to that as well, bro, is that Saturday I tried to take my own life. Yeah. And what happened was that I remember driving from I drove from Clifton in Bristol to the M32. Right. I remember going on the M32 and coming back off of it to come round to get enough speed coming back to the roundabout. Yeah. And I remember booting the BM that I was in at the time, because so like not gone, but I was just so like had enough. Because I was meant to see my kid that Saturday, and again I was let down. And then obviously thinking about my mum and everything, I just got on the M32. I ain't even spoke about this. I'm thinking about it now, but I got on the M32, came off the M32, came back on it, come down as you come onto it, it's like a hill, booted it, torrential rain, and I saw everything just flash before me, right? I remember braking, yeah, the whole car spun, and I went into the main roundabout reservations, and I remember spider webs in the car, everything. Do you know what I mean? Of like the cushions coming out and everything, smoke and all that, blah blah blah. I was dazed, bruv. Dazed. You know what I mean? And then that's it, passed out, man. Yeah, bro.
Do you think if you hadn't have given a positive sample, do you think that incident wouldn't have happened and your life would have just been as it was before? Do you feel that?
Say that again, Jay.
Do you feel if you hadn't have given a positive sample and you hadn't tested positive, do you think that wouldn't have been recognised that you had a problem? Do you feel that your life would have just gone on? Because no doubt there are players in the game that use recreational substances or whatever the case may be.
I think you'll find the game's rife with it now. The game's rife with it. And it was rife with it many years before as well. But at some quarters within the establishment, it's brushed under the carpet, or people are paid off, right? People are paid off. And there's a lot of Premiership players that are now coaches or managers that have played a fundamental part in paying a lot of people within Professional Football League and also the PFA, giving them money to keep it quiet. Yeah? Now, back to your point, I think I was on the road of, no, how do I put it? I ain't looking for no perfect wording at all. I would just say I would have had to have got help for my demons. Because either that or I would have killed myself. It was either that or I would have killed myself, because I've dealt with so much rejection in my life, and it was just seemed about, it's like my whole life growing up when I was a youngster, being rejected, being with a group of friends, being called, oh, you Snyder, or you Russian spy, and you know when you're trying to fit in with people and they're just rejecting you, or having your brother keep telling you, as I did have one of my brothers telling me, go home, man, go away, man, stop hanging about around me, stop walking around me, or you know, things like that. I've had to live with these demons, or you know, people always telling you what you ain't, telling you that you're this, telling you that you're that, and basically I was just that kid that just wanted a sense of belonging and acceptance, you know what I mean? So it was either that or I would have ended up taking my life anyway. But I think now my purpose is that I'm alive, I'm kicking, my kids can read up about me, whatever they want to read up about me, and find out who their father is. My son loves me to death. I'm in contact with my son, I love him to death. My daughter, she's had her kids, she's that old, and now she's a big woman, she knows it all. You know, I love her to death, and I'm still, you know what I mean? I'm still there whenever she needs me, you know what I mean? My Sienna, who's got a big future in front of her, you know, I love her to death as well, you know, in days to come, in their time, they will read and see, you know, Daddy tried. You know what I mean? Daddy tried. So that's all I can do, man. Like I left a legacy for them to, regardless, read up about their father, and, you know, they'll be seeing certain things that they think, wow, you know, Daddy done us proud. You know what I'm saying?
After your time with Swansea ended, were you then thinking about football and the next club, or were you thinking about your mental health and getting well into where you need to be within yourself?
I thought many a time, Jay, that when I from Swansea, I had chances to some of our clubs, right? So my mental was that it changed every day, James. Every day, right? It seemed to, I went through a period of anxiety, panic attacks, wanting to play, but don't want to play football. There was times where I was thinking, I feel $1 million, I can go and train with this club. I want to go and train. I want to give it a good go for a year and then come out of the game. But then it went to a phase where I just hated the game, man. I just hated the game, bruv. Hated the game, like, and even like, I don't hate the game. I love the game, but I just resented the whole, let's say, it's like loving the look of a house from the outside, but inside the contents is all messy. You understand? That's the only way I can put it. And that is how
I get it.
It made me resent the game, you know, Jay? You know what I mean? So I ended up wanting to play and then didn't want to play. And then I just went for a period of anxiety, and I went for a period of panic attacks. I went for depression mode. And I was dealing with all this on my own, bro. You know what I mean? Even my own family were glad to know that I was going through problems, more or less. Definitely, they were glad. My own family, definitely. even to this day, like, they love the fact mostly that I'm not playing football. Of course, you know.
After this spell, how long did it take you to refocus and get positive? How long did it take you to find the light and to find a path that suits your well-being and your mental mindset going forward?
I think you know what happened to me was I've always been a people's people, and the fact of the matter is quite open. You meet me in 5 minutes, you would know half my story in 5 minutes. You know what I mean? That's just me. I can't be no other way, and I'm very much 100% or not. I can't be half. I'm not a half stepper. I think with my kids as such, you know, it was like, wow, you know, for that panic attack and all that all came in conjunction with me thinking, what have I done? What have I done? Or, you know, the impact it's going to have on my kids, and obviously knowing that people are going to gloat in it, family members definitely going to gloat in it. They gloated in it. Of course they did. Kids' mums, must be my son's mum and my daughter's mostly, yeah, definitely gloated. I've even had comments made from my daughter's mum, mostly, good, you know, all of that. Yeah, definitely. But it came to a point where I thought, you know what? I know me. Yeah. So I know where I went wrong. I know where I went wrong as a person. Do I need help for it? I need to talk about things. I need to be more open. That's what I need to be. Now, how about just be honest with yourself? Let's be honest with ourselves. Let's talk. Let's start from there. Let's get comfortable about talking about it. Talking about what's wrong. Why did you go wrong? What made you make them decisions? Not made you make the decisions. Why did you come to them rationalizations? And again, why did you come with your own paranoia? Because I'll talk about me. I grew up amongst paranoia, around paranoia, with paranoia. Yeah? My dad's a schizophrenic, apparently. Does that play a fundamental point in me? I don't know. Maybe it does. But I know that I suffer from certain traits. But at the same time, I had to be honest with myself and focus and go, you know what, Ijah? You've had a beautiful career. Okay. In this world that we live in, scandal sells, isn't it? So yeah, let's be proud of what you've done then. It's not right what you've done, but man up, let's be proud about it. Because I can beat myself up every day of my life from now on until I die. Is it going to make me feel better? No. But understanding me is going to make me understand that I'm better me for people to understand me even more and know me. Yeah? Doesn't make it right, it doesn't make it wrong what I did. What I did do was wrong. What I did participate in was wrong. But understanding me and being more acceptance in myself is going to help me live. You know what I mean? And I always say to someone, like, obviously everyone has issues, everyone has personal issues. Best thing of starting is being at ease with yourself and being easy on yourself and talking about it and not even thinking about people's apprehensions. Because in this world, we all live amongst demons and we are all demons in our own right. And we've all got demons, we've all got skeletons or whatever. But you know what? Sometimes our skeletons are sometimes skeletons that we've got to be proud of to help us to be better in ourselves, to be a better version of ourselves. You understand? Because I've had to come through this whole cycle to help me to grow again, to love myself, to be proud of myself. You understand? And there's not a perfect picture out there, bro. You know what I mean? There's not a perfect picture. So therefore, I've had to come to terms with myself to talk about things that are uncomfortable for people or uncomfortable for people to listen, to hear me even talk about it. Because some of these people that I've had to I've had to talk to them about it, my process and my actual journey. They want me to find it uncomfortable to talk about, but I don't no more. I find it comfortable to talk about. That's my story. I'm comfortable with it. Do you know what I mean?
I think, like you mentioned, the key thing is getting around not being a prisoner to your past or to your past actions.
Yeah.
You took a recreational substance or you got dragged into something recreational which got out of hand. You can't let that little fraction of time in your life now rule the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
And
that's and that's the thing. There's it is so like ironic because even some people, which I say associates, it's fundamental that they'll talk about that. They wouldn't talk about the achievements. They talk about that though. Even the certain quarter of like certain family members, they would talk about that rather than, or you could see in their face, I could see the expressions. Even like sometimes, maybe even amongst my cousins and family members, you know, never heard them say, I'm proud of what you've done or what you've achieved. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not perfect. I would always say that to certain my family members. I'll tell them I love them because you know what? I'm still that kid that wanted to hear that when he was young, when he was a youngster, but never had it. I was always that kid. The coach never said you've had a good game, but I always reacted to, come on, sort it out. But I would react to that. I'll play well under that intense pressure. Do you know what I mean? But I've never had the arm around the shoulder, which maybe would have made me play even much better.
I'm just going to come to this. That's maybe the reason people are that other way with you, because they know the reaction it gets. It works if it works and that management works. Sometimes you're unwilling to change. We're yelling and at you, shouting at you.
I think maybe I've got this is another thing. What I understand, I think I gave off. Maybe that's me. How I chose to deal with that, and maybe that's how people read into how they would handle me. He reacts better when you're hard on him, so therefore, maybe I did react to it in that way. Some guys will mostly go sulky and then obviously you've got a coach that will go tactile, like, all right, lads, you know, like, listen, how about try this and try that, and how about go about, you know, doing this, playing this way and playing that way. I didn't. I reacted to those that would shout at me, which brought the best out in me, most probably, and maybe that's my journey. But at the same time, I've always been adverse to that when it comes to affection. I've always given that kind of love and affection and told people that I love them, and even my mates, I love you, or whatever. I will say to, you know, my family members, I love you and proud of you, or say to friends, I'm proud of you. Because it's always something that I wanted to hear as well myself. I've always not had that. You know what I mean? And I find it fulfilling that I can do that. And I find it at ease to do that and say that to people because I genuinely mean it. I want the best and I want people to aspire. I want people to be better. And I always want people to always drive. And because I never had people driving me on as such. Obviously in the football world, you do coach driving on, but I'm always reminding people that they can do better. I want them to do better. Do you know what I mean? Naturally, in everyday life, I want you to do better. Yeah, man, you'll be all right. Be proud of yourself, man. You know what I mean? Go easy on yourself, man. Be proud of yourself. Keep going, man. Keep on keeping on. You know what I mean? You know?
If you could change one thing about your career, one decision that you made, one decision that you didn't make that changed the trajectory of your career path, what would that decision be?
I think there's a few answers I'll give to that. Would be one, realizing that it's okay to be selfish. What I mean by that, by going out for yours, maybe knocking on the manager's door and going, if there's a move tomorrow to a club that's more ambitious or will pay a lot more money than what I'm getting now, can you help me on my way? Rather than shut up, put up, get on with it. Yeah. 2, being too loyal and honest. Yeah. 3, speaking my mind. I should have been more outspoken. I should have been outspoken. I wasn't outspoken. I was your typical team player, play the game, and you know, be seen but not heard. Do you know what I mean? And even as a senior pro, as it were, I was good for the younger pros and for the kids and everything, but I wasn't good to myself.
Yeah.
So I think all of it's fundamentally important that it all goes back to my childhood. What I understand and the process of my journey is that I'm good for other people, but I'm not good for myself. And I do realise that now, because I do feel that for me, I drive people and I want people to better themselves. I want this because I've never had that. But maybe if I turn that fraction, which I'm doing gradually, slowly for myself, is being more loving to me. And, you know, even like I find that even people that I must have been with, they're quick to beat me down, even if I'm uplifting them. If I'm that trajectory for them, but they're quick to put me down when they know that I do thrive on the positive aspects of things, and I can thrive on the positive aspects of things. You know what I mean? And I am very much insecure massively in that way, that knowing that I do respond better to positive instead of the hard. Like, I do. I know that now. I know I can. And that is my drive. I do encourage everyone, and even my kids as well, express yourself, even if it's awkward. If you feel awkward, it's good to be awkward, but express yourself. You know what I mean? Be expressive, speak your mind, and have no fears on that, you know?
You had 16 and a half years as a professional footballer.
Yeah.
It seems to me that you've beaten yourself up more over a 3-month period in your career than you've celebrated the other 16 years. Like, it just seems to me that you've let that one incident that was at the back end of your career rule the imagery of your career. When in truth, the majority of people that have heard you, seen you play, or whatever else, probably aren't even aware of that incident. So it's just a mental positive thinking thing. I think changing sometimes the way you view yourself and getting over that, like you said, speaking about the embarrassment of that incident. Just
You know, I'll tell you what, right? You know, at the time when I was going through it, yeah, I think I had no choice, bruv. Me, like, because I've got this thing, right, that I say, I'm a lone one vibe tribe. Yeah. I had no choice I didn't find the embarrassment of it or anything like that, or shame. But I did think shame in terms of what's my kids gonna feel like, or my mum, do you know what I mean? I felt bad in that way, my kids and my mum, yeah? But not really, no, I've not had family members. There was no one that really said to me, do you want to talk about it, bro? Do you want to talk about it? Do you know what I mean? See, like this dialogue we've got right here, I've never had this dialogue, like with even a family member. Not even like my mum's not really asked me about it. It's like, you know, it's mad really. But as I said to you before, like as a long one vibe tribe for me, I've had to do a lot of things by myself, bro. And I'm still having to do things by myself. I'm still adjusting to things in life by myself. And I'm proud of that because it's what I've known all along from when I was a youngster. I'm on my own. It's mad. It's so mad, crazy, because there's nothing that I've been through in my life that someone can say, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've been there with you. Like, nah, I've had to come through shit by me. I've had to do things by myself. You know what I mean? All right. As my mum would say, I'll put a roof over your head or things like that. That's just that's what parents do. Do you know what I mean? So, but apart from that, there's nothing else. I've had to adjust to things by myself. When I say this to people, I find it hard to believe. I've not had it crispy at all. And that's why my journey has been the way it is anyway, because it is set that way. Because in football, for the 11th time in football, and what I've done, club never rewarded me. I've never had no rewards from the club. Do you know what I mean? Never had none of that. But hopefully they will keep to their promise that they will give me like they said, a benefit game or whatever that is due for my service to the club, you know? And like many other players that have been there for like 2 or 3 years or whatever, they've been given, hopefully they will reward me with that. Because they would mention that they'll be giving me a benefit game or due to my services, 8.5 years at the club. We will see. Obviously, due to the pandemic, I had discussions with a certain person, an important person within the club at Brentford. Something that they've mentioned it. We'll see. Hopefully they'll keep to their word. Could it be nice if I can play in a benefit game and the fans are there? You know what I mean? And I could say my goodbyes then fully. That'd be proper. I'll have my son playing in the game as well. That'd be fantastic. You know?
I know Brentford's always going to have a soft spot in your club, in your heart. Do you genuinely regret leaving the club when you did? Is it something that you think about?
Do I regret it?
Yeah.
James. Like, I was full stop, bro. I was full stop. Wally Dance forced me out along with there's a few people, I think there's a few old wood in the club that they bought into what he was saying at the time, I think. But I do regret, you know, leaving the club at the time I did. And I always will regret leaving the club because I didn't really even want that. I didn't want to go to, James, I didn't want to even go to another club. How about that? Like, you got my best mate, he goes Sheffield Wednesday. You got other players going to Crystal Palace, other players going to, like, you know, big clubs and that. And there's me wanting to stay at Brentford. There's me wanting to stay at Brentford. Do you know what I mean? You know, and it's just, it is what it is, man. It's, you know, I would have thought that would stick in the club's heads that he stayed there through thick and thin. Let's reward him. Do you know what I mean?
If you could relive one day of your footballing career forever, so you literally go to sleep, you wake up, you relive that day, like Groundhog Day, what would your footballing Groundhog Day be?
Yeah, but there can't be one. There's got to be a few days, isn't it?
I've got to be strict on this. You're allowed one day. It's got to be go sleep, wake up, same day. It's a footballing Groundhog Day. So your dream day that you've had in your career, when you go to sleep and you think about football or you dream about something, what day is it that comes back to
you? The day I would say the highlight of the best day would have been, it wouldn't I know I could easily say promotion days, right? But it's not. It's going to be when I run out for Brentford in the playoff final against Crew Alexandra. My nan was there. She worked at Wembley Stadium. And my mum was there, my uncle and my brother. And that was like a signature, like to say, Nan, like, because she used to take me to Wembley Stadium, right, as a youngster, my nan, because she worked in a hospitality suite, yeah? So I used to watch the local teams play at Wembley. And those that weren't doing anything, you could just volunteer as a ball boy. Do you know what I mean? So that was, for me, for my nan, to see her grandson running out at Wembley, that was the day. When I ran out at Wembley Stadium and the royal family was shaking my hand and I'm singing the national anthem and all that, and my nan's there watching, that was unbelievable. And yeah, for me, that is one of many.
Can you imagine how proud your nan must have been when she's going to her workmates and that, look, there's my grandson actually playing.
Do you know what? And it's mad because I remember like saying, like a workmate saying, that's it, like a grandson, because she spoke about me, to be honest. Like my nan was always quietly proud of me, more so than like any family member. We'd always sit down and talk. And she would share a lot of stories with me, wisdom stories, so much stories she would share with me. And for me, man, like my nan, like, yeah, my nan, boy, she saw her grandson run out Wembley, you know what I mean? The old Twin Towers, man. And she spent years at that stadium working, you know, in catering staff and everything. And just thinking about it even now is like mad, because she lives on Londo Avenue, just about 20 minutes from Wembley Stadium. And she used to always tell me about Wembley Stadium, man. You know what I mean? So it must be massive for her, man. I mean, she's in heaven right now. So she's like, she got me buzzing still, you know what I mean?
I'm sure the rest of your family are proud of you as well, mate. Some people aren't great with words. I don't know if it's a London thing as well. Sometimes people get caught up in life and whatever else. But I'm sure deep down that they are proud of your achievements. And
I mean,
I'm sure.
I mean, I don't know, you know. I'm a bit straight and to the point. I think maybe is it great with words? Do you have to be great with words? Don't have to be really great with words. I think the family, the way the family set up is always gonna have some form of excuse not to really just be pure or be at one. Do you know what I mean? I think I've learned that since growing up within the family catchment and seeing how the family catchment function. You know, I think the togetherness within the family is like Christmas time, and then we don't see each other for a whole Christmas. Do you know what I mean? It's not like they're gonna, you know, I'll be honest, because I know one day they will see this anyway, it's very rarely that you get the cousins or anything visiting you from where they are. But I did find myself going up to see my family all the time, always visiting them. And it's something that my mum would do, would visit Nan. We would always make the effort to going up there. So something's obviously fundamentally not right within the actual family genes, is it? You know what I mean? That's how I see it. But at the same time, you're right. People ain't good with words, and some people, you know, they find it hard to express their feelings. I mean, you know, we all have certain issues with expressing feelings, but I think with me, it's that little kid in it that always will try and express that and talk it and tell it as it is. And it's nice to have that as well back as well. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that. Listen, I'm glad you're in a good place, firstly, with everything. Other than the neck and the shoulder, you seem to be physically and mentally in a good place and very, very well.
Oh yeah.
To everything.
Well, you know, James, there's a lot to be done while I'm on Earth and while I can do it. I mean, I'm working on a book that's taken a while. I mean, I'm going to be getting help with it anyway. I've got a guy that's Grenville Williams. He's Grenville Waterman. Sorry, I got his name wrong. He's fundamentally a very important person within Brentford Football Club, also as a supporter, also as a book writer himself. And I've added a lot of chapters to my upbringing in terms of Hackney boy journey into football, right? Therefore, we've got a few chapters, not a few chapters, obviously I'm doing it from 8 years old to 13 at the moment. So I'm actually done the bits and pieces of transcripts, written transcripts of my journey, how my life was, where I grew up, and etc. The school I went to, etc. The journey up until training with Simrad Football Club and local clubs of Leopold, what I was doing at that time, at that age, and what was happening at the time in that year, what we were doing at that time, and also my breakdancing days. So we've got to catch up, me and Grenville Waterman, who is going to be having a read through it for me and trying to assist me best way possible. And yeah, we're looking to do like a couple episodes of the book where it brings me up to, you know, the first stages of when I signed with Tottenham, and then the journey on from there. My journey in football and how it went, etc., etc. And it'll be very important. There's going to be certain fun, very straight to the point stuff in the book. But the book is going to be great in terms of, from my aspect, for youngsters as a whole, and even adults as a whole, those in life challenges and whatever, they'll be able to tap into this book. Kids in sports, every sport can tap into it and learn something from this book. Do you know what I mean? Because we never stop learning until we leave the earth, man.
Indeed.
You know what I mean? So there's so much to do.
I've got to say, it's been a great pleasure to get you on the channel. Thank you for sharing your story with me, man. It's great to hear things from firsthand.
Yeah, man. It's not the last time, James, man. We're going to be in touch, bro. You know what I mean? We're going to... You know what I mean? We made it, bruv. We made it Zoom party, bro.
It's only took me 7 months to get you sitting here. Do you know what I mean?
We made it.
Easier to get around.
We finally got it done, baby. We finally did it, baby.
It's easier to get Ronaldinho on the channel than to get you on, you know?
Listen, bro. We're gonna when all things lift up, we're gonna be linking, man. Don't worry about that. Yeah, but listen, no doubt. We'll do another one whenever you're ready, bro. I'm always here to support you, man. No doubt, yeah?
Love that.
It's been a pleasure. And like I said, my story, my journey is everyone to just learn from and take something from it. You know what I mean? Ijah Anderson is Ijah Anderson that loves football, enjoys football for what it was loyal and wasn't your ideal flair player, but was a team player. And hopefully I've left that, which I have done with the fans, that I left my heart on the pitch. You know what I mean? I never shortchanged none of the fans, and any of the club that I played for, I represented that, and myself, I represented that to the fullest. You know, I'll give my all, and I tried. And it's, I would say, for my kids as well, for them to be proud of, and the family to be proud of that. We've got a legacy there to live on. And the son's going to be taking it on at some stage. You know? But I'm a proud man, man. I'm proud of myself, and I'm proud of myself, and I'm very well and able, man. And I'm just looking forward to the future, really, and, you know, making sure the kids are all right. And hopefully we get to see the grandkid at some point. You know?
So yeah, you don't look old enough to have grandchildren, Ijah. You look younger than me, so something's going wrong, you know what I mean?
Hey, James, with this crick neck right about now. Mate,
even
I'm
with
telling you,
you're still doing me up, mate.
Original Barney Rubble, mate. I'm telling you, I need a bit of WD-40 in there, James.
It's been a great pleasure to chat to you, mate. And I look forward to catching you up again real soon. Thank you, Ijah.
Fantastic. It's been a pleasure, yeah?